In this special episode of Wild Things and Wild Places, our host Joshua Coursey reflects on reaching a milestone birthday and the retirement of his friend Brian Nesvik, the former director of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. The episode begins with a heartfelt tribute from Josh at Brian's retirement, leading into personal reflections on life, friendship, and the journey ahead.
This is the first time that, Brian, you have seen me in a tie. I do not wear a tie. I don't. I wear a tie at weddings and funerals. Of course, I'm a smart man. Happy wife is happy life. And I asked my beautiful bride last night to select a tie. And I have a limited selection, but this is my Aretha Franklin tie, is what I've called it now. And that is R-E-S-P-E-C-T, just for you, buddy. On a serious note, we've heard a lot about great leadership and certainly qualities and traits that, Brian, you have demonstrated, you orchestrate, and you execute. Brian and I start our day with a daily conversation in the early hours of the morning. Penny, I'm sorry about that, but he doesn't need an alarm clock. But what makes a great leader comes to mind. And Brian had shared this with me, and this was a quote and a paraphrase of Governor Dave. But Brian had shared with me, he sends a quote, and Dr. Monteith and I try to figure out who said it. The easy guess is always Alan Simpson, because there's a lot of those quotes. But this one, I think, summarizes exactly how Brian executes his leadership platform. And I think we've heard it in all of the speeches prior today. It's amazing what you can get done, but nobody cares who gets credit for it. And I think, sir, he gives credit to you for saying that. And I'm glad that he has shared that with us. But I think that also speaks magnitudes of your effort as a leader to continue to be a great leader. And that is surrounding yourself with great people, having mentors. I look around and I see some of the folks in this room that you and I have had several conversations about and the impact that they have to you. Of course, Governor Dave, Jim Magagna, Pat Crane. There are many in this room, and your willingness to be the sponge to absorb that wisdom is what gives you the wisdom to be able to do what you do and do it well, and you do it very well. There has been plenty of successes that have been mentioned. I would like to just have everyone give a round of applause for Inspire a Kid. That is truly a legacy effort and move that deserves all the equity, and certainly the response and the support for that has been well thought. One thing that hasn't been mentioned that has come on board on your watch is the debut and constant looking at of Cowboy State Daily. That wasn't there before you. And when I had heard that Cowboy State Daily was reaching out for a comment on your retirement, usually I disregard the call, but I took this call, and the reporter, Mark Hines, had asked, what do you think Director Nesvik's going to do in his retirement? He seems to be a man of service, a tremendous military career, tremendous game and fish career. And I thought about that because it's something we've thought about a lot. There's certainly, as was mentioned, some anxiety, separation anxiety with you leaving just because of the great leader you are, but you'll build pole barns, and you'll sing to your cows. And on behalf of Muley Fanatic Foundation, we would like to present you this Brian Nesvik singing cow rocker. On that note, this took a little preparation. I had told Brian about a year ago when we were talking about when this time would come that I'd sure like to have the opportunity to say a few words, and he says, "You'll be the first to know, I promise you." A few weeks back, he calls and says, looks like we're going to do it on September 11th. And I think your wife drew a pronghorn tag that opens on September 10th, so you might not be able to make it. We got that done yesterday, and we were here early this morning. And a lot of folks are going to miss you. And you're in good hands. I think Governor Gordon, for your leadership, I think Game and Fish as a department is in good hands. Brian had told me many times nobody is irreplaceable. We're stronger than one individual, and the vision will move forward, and the needle will be moved forward for the wildlife resource and the people of Wyoming. But we're going to miss your mug. We are going to miss your mug. And it's interesting, 31, 33, I don't know, 34 sounds good, just saying. But we are going to miss your mug, and all of us. So I brought a special gift that I would like to I'll pass the box around, and There's about 55 of these in the box, but this is a custom air freshener.
I'm your guide, Joshua Coursey, and different episode today. This one, I don't know if you want to, I've been thinking about what I would call it. I don't know if it's ramblings or reflections, but I think I'm going to go with reflections. And I just have some thoughts I wanted to share with this audience, folks that I know listen to the podcast, reach out to me, engage with me. If you're not one of those folks, I would highly encourage you to please have the courage and confidence to reach out to me and have a conversation with me about topics, content, future guests. Certainly this is a platform that I believe can let folks understand and orient themselves with the direction of Muley Fanatic Foundation and its mission and its strive and aim to accomplish that mission. But yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You know, I turned 50 last week, and I've seen some things in the last couple of weeks that I thought were new and maybe in some ways monumental, and just when you start to reflect upon the first 50 years or the first half century, it's certainly nothing more than a number, but I do think it is a milestone. Of course, everybody wants to let you know when you're turning 50. And then I think also coupled with the fact that a good friend of mine just retired, and I went to the retirement ceremony of former director, retired director, Brian Nesvik of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. And on September 11th, fittingly enough, because he is not only a great friend, a man who I think was a great director of the Game and Fish Department for his 6-year tenure at the helm, but then also a great leader and a great patriot, as he also retired from the Wyoming Army National Guard as the commanding general of the Guard after a 35-year career, including 2 combat tours in Kuwait and Iraq as a captain and as a colonel. But just truly a great leader of men and women, and someone I am honored and humbled to be able to call a friend, a great friend at that. But he retired, and when your friends start retiring and you turn 50, then you open the door or you open yourself up to being the punchline of old jokes, and that's okay. Yeah, I've noticed some physical things over the last couple of years. I knew this day would probably come, but I've always been blessed with exceptional eyesight, and over the last 2 years, in fact at 45 when I went to the eye doctor, and she was surprised I wasn't needing some sort of assistance and still had good eyesight, and I said maybe I'm the exception to the rule, and she said I will see you sooner than later. And sure enough, I can't go anywhere now without having a pair of readers, borrowing a pair of readers, or hoping my wife packed a spare pair of readers, in addition to the fact that I have purchased several pairs of readers and have them pre-positioned at all the appropriate points of interest and need: the bathroom, the workbench, the dresser, the end table by the football chair, you name it, the nightstand. I think I have a pair in the medicine cabinet, and yeah, anyways, in the truck. I've certainly aged, but in my head, I don't feel any different. I feel 50 is 50, welcome it, sure beats the alternative, right? But I have a couple of firsts this year that'll be coming up. One will be a booked whitetail hunt in Texas with a friend of mine from Virginia, Dave Kavanaugh. And Dave and I have wanted to create a memory in the field, because I do believe there are no greater memories than those created in the field, together in God's element, and being that close to nature and being able to provide the bounty and the blessings of your protein through God's resource, our wildlife. So Dave and I are going to create this memory together in November in Texas. And I had this conversation with Dave earlier this summer. Dave is 73 and has the energy of a 40-year-old all day long. He's also retired. Dave told me in his head he feels 38. I asked him, and he said, no, in my head I'm 38. Physically, yes. And Dave, kudos to him. And Dave, I know you're listening. Kudos to you, because you do take great care of your body, and your clean living shows. So you're reaping the benefits and able to do a lot of things that I see some folks that are even younger than your age not being able to do. But I'm looking forward to that experience together. And I think also when you hit 50, you start thinking about all the other things you want to do. Some of this is you can look back 20 years to when I was 30, and I can think about, okay, my youngest daughter was 2, and boy, that just seemed like that happened in a flash. So then if you extrapolate that forward 20 years in the future, if it goes by just as fast, then before you know it, you wake up and you're 70. If you put a 2-decade list of goals and things that you wanted to try to do, I think that's different at 50 than it is at 30. And so I'm certainly not planning 20 years out. But there are a few things I want to do, and I do recognize that they are going to require some sort of better maintenance of the physique and cardio of this shell of a body that God has given me. I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. I've always been a guy that if you need to make a change, you make a change, you implement, and you carry forward at that moment. But at 50, I have seen the opportunity and potentially the need for me to identify some things that I could do out of a test of discipline to myself. Because I think, as I look at Director Nesvik and the many folks that spoke at his retirement, the one thing I can tell you about him and his leadership is that it is rooted in his discipline, and I think it is also rooted in his habits. And I think we've always heard the cliche from when we were youngsters that Ben Franklin said, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I don't know about wealthy and wise, but I certainly do think that there is some health benefits that I have gained from being a guy who wanted to implement something of that fashion. I do like to get up early, and I do like to start my day without the distractions of what seems to be the rest of the world's starting point. And that is a common denominator that I think I have also found with many other people I've admired as great leaders, is they discipline themselves to get that early start on their day. And that's just one of probably many habits that I think Director Nesvik lives with. I think he's a great communicator, and he's a great sponge and seeker of wisdom and experience of those elder or senior to him. And maybe that's why he's in the role that he is in within my life as a friend, is I see him as a wise mentor with great experience in leadership. And so I do think leaders, you need to seek out other leaders and what can you gain from them. I do think, though, it is rooted in habit. So I want to share this with you because I found this to be interesting. But when you talk about habits, for the first years of my adult life, I don't know that I was truly aware or were seeking intentionally to create certain habits. And I do think certain habits do have to have that intentional effort for you to do on a regular basis for it to become exactly what the hope or the outcome is, just a way of life or a good habit, if you will. But listen to this when it comes to habits. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest asset or your heaviest burden. I will push you up to success or down to disappointment. I am at your command. Half the things you do might just as well be turned over to me, for I can do them quickly, correctly, and profitably. I am easily managed. Just be firm with me. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I work with the precision of a machine and the intelligence of a person. You can run me for profit, or you can run me for ruin. Show me how you want it done. Educate me, train me, lead me, reward me, and I will then do it automatically. I am your servant. Who am I? I am a habit. That's pretty profound. I am a habit. We have good habits, we have bad habits, we have, quite frankly, just new habits that we need to create. We do those on a regular basis. Some of it dietary, some of it physical, some of it mental, some of it spiritual. They're all habits. But I do think in reflecting upon Director Nesvik's retirement, he is a great leader. And I joked with one of the reporters of Cowboy State Daily when the news broke of his pending retirement that he would build pole barns and he would sing to his cows, but we would see him again. And I know he is looking forward to a break and looking forward to some time on the ranch. And Penny and his family will enjoy this time with him. But I want to go on record and say, I do not believe that we have seen the last of Brian Nesvik. The man has lived a life of service, a 35-year military career, achieving the commanding general rank of the entire Wyoming Army National Guard, to the director of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, in a tenure of 6 years that was littered with challenges, from the pandemic to feed grounds, to the continued conversations and efforts to delist the biologically recovered grizzly bear to the rightful authority managed by the state of Wyoming and other states. He has led that charge with Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and continues to be that sound science supporter of what is accountable through science. That has made Brian, I think, a very good leader. We have seen research and the investment into research on his watch increase significantly, recognizing that we are only as good as the information we have and can only make the best decision with the best of information available. I think that's also a testament to his leadership. And then there is a suite or host of other issues that have occurred on his watch that I think took great leadership, probably none greater than aquatic invasive species with all of our sister states around us, showing the identification of those AIS within their tributaries and waters and the impact that can have, not just for fisheries, but for agricultural and municipalities, and the combat of being able to mobilize and implement the strategies and plans that were developed for this incident took great leadership. And I think everyone may not recognize that, but it certainly took a great leader. I think his own directive, his own initiative, Inspire a Kid. I can't think of a more valiant effort that deserves all the equity that has got and will continue to get for the effort put forth by Brian Nesvik. And there's a long list of other challenges that were met head on, done the Wyoming way, engaging other stakeholders to come to the table and work on a solution together, all under the efforts of his leadership. So we will always be thankful for that. I will always be thankful for that. Personally, very grateful and just appreciative for the blessing of the friendship that Brian and I have. But please reach out. If you have topics, you have content, you have ideas, this podcast platform is something that I think allows us in a very timely way to be able to share and promote the activities of MFF, but then also the community of sportsmen and sportswomen, hunters. We are small in numbers in the bigger picture, and the more that we can do to responsibly promote our heritage, then the longer we can be rest assured that we'll have this heritage. And speaking of hunting, it is that time of year. Today is the 1st. I'm recording this actually on September 20th, Friday. Beautiful fall day in September, but it will air September 24th. This is the first September 20th. I have not woken on the side of a mountain in the Wind River Range in a wilderness area. In the last 16 years, I have woke up every morning on September 20th at 4:30 in the morning in pursuit of an elk hunt with me and a good buddy of mine, Luke Anderson. And this year, neither one of us drew the tag. 300 tags, 327 applicants. What are the odds on that? Terrible. Absolutely freaking terrible. That's what they are. Luke and I both in the 27 that did not draw. And we had both told each other, if for some reason you draw and I don't, or vice versa, we still go, we help each other. Yeah, packing out an elk in that country, the more that do the work makes the work a little bit easier. But both of us sitting at home this morning. I visited with him early this morning, and different. But on the hunting note, I will share some blessings of the bounty already. My wife drew an antelope tag and was able to harvest a nice pronghorn on opening day, September 10th. And we were able to come home that day, get it broke down, and get it all cut up and vacuum sealed and in the freezer, short of the tenderloins, which we ate actually on the night of the 13th. We knew we couldn't eat them the night of the 11th because that was Director Nesvik's retirement that we were going to travel to, but we left them marinating in the fridge and ate them a couple nights later. And boy, I continue to hear people say, I'm just never really been a pronghorn fan. Boy, you do not know what you're missing, and there must be something that isn't being done correctly for you not to appreciate. If you like to eat wild game meat and you don't like antelope, I would like to visit with how you were doing it. I don't know if it's the temperature you're cooking it to, or if it's the care in the field at the time of harvest. Gosh, I don't know what it is, that if that's what's occurring and you're not liking to eat antelope, I'd like to know what's going on, to be quite honest, because I have yet to have a bad antelope that I have harvested. I just haven't. I absolutely, and my wife as well. In fact, we've actually had several friends of ours that are like, this cannot be antelope. I'm telling you it is. Anyways, we love antelope, and we're blessed to have some in the freezer. But that's all I have. Just a little opportunity of reflection, a little different on the podcast platform, but certainly it left an impression upon me to know and see firsthand the admiration and the just appreciation for Director Nesvik and his tenure with the Wyoming Game and Fish and the impact that it's had for wildlife management. All right. Happy trails.
And that wraps up another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. But remember, the journey doesn't end here. Make sure you never miss out by subscribing. Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, streaming us on our website, or following us on social media, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more wild episodes.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley Fanatic.